Hey you, my name is Shelby and this is Little Coffee Fox. I have been a professional letterer for over 5 years, and along that journey I have picked up several tips and tricks and skills that I really wish I had known right at the beginning when I got started. My goal here is to share some of those tips and skills with you so that you don't have to make all the same mistakes that I did. In this video, I want to share something that's super important but often overlooked, and that is how to actually hold your body while you're lettering. Small changes in the way that you hold your shoulders and your arms and your back and even your feet can actually make a big difference in how you letter. And I want to talk about how to put yourself in the best situation so that you get the best lettering results possible. All right, so the first one that I want to talk about is posture. How you sit in your chair or at your desk can make a really big difference in the final results of your lettering. So, what makes good lettering posture? First and foremost, sit at your desk or table like you're about to start typing at a computer. So you want to be squared up with it. You don't want to be coming in at an angle or anything like that. Sit right up against your table. Second, put your feet flat on the ground, or if you're very short like me, have your feet shoulder width apart directly beneath your knees on the ground. You want to try to not cross your ankles or cross your legs or anything like that because it throws you off a little bit and puts your weight in different positions when you want to be pretty even and balanced in your sitting position. Next, try to keep your back straight. I know this is hard. I am a habitual huncher. I sit like a goblin at my desk all the time, hunched over what I'm working on, but surprise, surprise, it's not actually the best for either your back or for your lettering. So try really hard to sit up and keep a straight back while you are in the process of lettering. And finally, with your shoulders, you want to make sure to try to keep them lowered because I found, at least with myself, sometimes I have a tendency to slowly inch my shoulders up while I'm working and tense up my shoulders. That's no good. You want your shoulders to be relaxed and fairly loose. If they're really tight and bunched up, then again, it's really uncomfortable for you and it's not good over a long period of time, and it's not going to create the smoothest final result. So when you catch yourself doing that, remember to relax your shoulders and try to keep them down while you are lettering. Let me give you a look on how you should not sit while you're lettering. You might find yourself tempted to lean on your non-dominant arm while you're lettering, or to lean forward, hunch your shoulders, and put a lot of weight on the table while you are lettering, but you should not do that. That is no bueno. That's very not good. Generally, any kind of a way where you're not sitting upright at a table. I know it sounds kind of dull and not great because sometimes you want to letter on the couch or you want to just be cozy, and I get that. But while you're practicing, especially right in the beginning, you don't want to limit your mobility. You want to be able to have your full range of motion, and if you're sitting on a couch or if you're leaning way over on one side or the other, you are limiting yourself, you're restricting your movement, and you're not going to get the same beautiful lettering that you would if you were balanced and upright like I am right now. Right when you're beginning, you are in the process of building the foundational muscle memory that's going to guide you as you continue learning to letter. And if you build the wrong muscle memory by constantly sitting in a really bad posture or being all balled up on the couch or something, then you're not going to develop the correct foundational skills, and you need those. When you get a little bit further along, yes, you can do it in not always the most perfect of circumstances, but right at the beginning, I implore you to just try to practice while you're sitting in the correct position because you want to build the correct habits now instead of having to fix them later on down the line. Next, let's talk about how to hold your arm while you're lettering. First things first, figure out which one is your dominant hand. You should probably know this one by now, but I'm right hand dominant, so my left is my non-dominant hand. My left hand is going to be sitting on the table, either holding the piece of paper in front of me or just resting on the table if I don't need that support, but it's just hanging out over here being a support system. Then your dominant hand is going to be holding the pen that you're going to be using, and you want it to touch the table. You want this part of your hand right here to touch the paper or touch the table, but you want your arm to actually be lifted up off the table, not resting on the table. Your hand can touch, but you don't want it to have too much weight, too much pressure leaning on it. It's more of just touching gently so it can glide. You want your hand to be able to glide over the paper. And then here's the most important part. You want to push and pull your hand with your elbow and your shoulder, not with your wrist or fingers. See, when we write normally, we lean our whole entire arm on the desk and we keep our hand stationary and we move our fingers. And then whenever we need to, we move the whole hand and start over again. So like this. And we use our fingers to push and pull the pen in this sort of scribbling motion. And that's how you write typically. But handwriting and lettering are not the same thing. And that's why with lettering, you need to learn some new ways of moving the pen across the page because you are trying to create a completely different result than handwriting, basically. So let me show you the difference between handwriting and lettering in terms of the movement. So this one was hand-rested, scribbling fingers. With lettering, again, my hand is going to be touching the paper and my arm is going to be moving, not my wrist and fingers so much. Like my wrists and fingers can move a little bit. It's not like they have to be totally still, but the majority of my movement is coming from my elbow and my shoulder. So let me show you a little bit what I mean. The reason why you want to move your arm this way is because it gives you a full range of motion and it allows you to create smooth, long strokes. Whereas if you just lean your whole weight on your hand, you can only create about an inch's worth of lettering and then you have to pick up and move again. And it can create really cramped, pinched lettering that's not desirable. Lettering is supposed to be graceful and lovely, and whenever you restrict yourself like that, you're just not allowing yourself the full range of movement and the full range of strokes that you could otherwise get. It's worth it to try to learn this. It will be very weird at first if you've never done it before. It's very weird. You're using muscles that you're not used to using. You might actually find yourself being sore after lettering because you're using completely different muscles than what you're used to. That's all totally normal. You have to just stick with it and keep practicing. Another way to actually conceptualize this difference in muscle is to pretend like you are lettering in the air in front of you, like you're writing on a chalkboard or a dry erase board. Or alternatively, you can actually write on a chalkboard or dry erase board if you happen to have one, or tape a piece of paper to your wall and use that to practice some of your lettering, because you're not actually able to rest your weight on your hand because you're not sitting at a desk. You have to maintain and uphold the entire weight of your arm, which will help teach you those correct movements and the right muscles to use as you're lettering. So let me show you what I mean really quick. So again, I got my pen in my hand here, and I'm just going to letter my name in the air in front of me. This is obviously very over-exaggerated, but this is the kind of over-exaggeration that you need in order to kind of learn what muscles you're using and get a feel for what you're doing so that you can better apply those whenever you're sitting at a desk. It might feel silly, but it's actually a very good way to practice this particular motion. So first, I just want to start by saying that there are lots of different ways that people grip their pens. I hold my pen like this, kind of resting on the first knuckle of my middle finger, but that is not necessarily the right way of doing it. Some people will keep the pen kind of in the crook of their thumb like this and letter like that. Some people will even go and have the pen between their first and second finger, and there's a lot of other varieties besides these. My point is that, as far as I'm aware, there's no particular right or particularly wrong way to hold your pen. A lot of people learn in different ways and they have different comfortable grips. So just do whatever is the most comfortable for you. But I will go ahead and give you some tips on how to adjust your grip to make it practical for lettering. So one of the first things you should do with holding a pen is focus on how tightly you are gripping your pen. Because with writing, we tend to hold it, that's kind of the standard grip of writing. Everyone has their own standard grip, but it's kind of like a medium grip, I guess. And I found with lettering, especially when I was a beginner, I had a really bad tendency of really holding onto that pen tight and like white knuckling it. It's just not a good grip. It's not a good way to do it. You want to be able to hold the pen firmly, but still be able to wiggle it out of your grip with your other hand. So like there should be some resistance trying to pull the pen out, but you shouldn't be holding on to it for dear life where you can't, where you fling the cap off because you're yanking it so hard. So if you've got a normal bullet tip pen, then you can hold it however feels the most comfortable for you and write whatever you're writing. It's a bullet tip pen. I mean, you know how they work. It's not unusual. But a brush tip pen, you need to hold it just a little bit differently to really get the most out of the brush tip. At the beginning, I said that you should sit squared up with your table. That does not mean that you can't tilt and angle your paper to make it the most comfortable for your writing position. You just need to be sitting square at the table rather than sitting cockeyed to the table, if that makes sense. So angle your paper however you need it to be angled for your lettering. Just sit straight on. You should be holding it at about a 45-degree angle. So you don't want to be holding it too far upright, and you don't want to be holding it super, super flat. You want to get it kind of in a nice happy medium position, because you need to apply pressure with a brush pen to get the variation of line widths that the brush tip can offer you. So if I go too high up like this, I can get some variation, but not a lot. But if I tilt it, then you're able to really kind of add some pressure and get the nice widest part of the brush pen, get a nice big, thick, juicy stroke. So something else I like to do with my particular grip is I'll often extend my pinky out and kind of have it act like a stabilizer or a guide while I'm moving and gliding my arm around. Alright, so in this video we have learned how to hold your posture and your main body. We talked about how to use your arm and elbow for the best movement, and we talked about how to hold the pen in your hand. So at this point you might be thinking that all of this might be a little overkill or might not be 100% necessary to learning lettering. And you're right, it's not 100% necessary in order to learn lettering. I very much ignored this for the first several years that I lettered, and I still learned and I advanced and I got better and everything. But I'm still finding old bad habits that I formed in those early days, and I'm still finding that I have to fix them because I at some point decided to try to learn how to do it properly, how to really focus on it. But if I had committed myself right there at the beginning to sitting properly, holding my arm properly, doing all of that stuff the correct way, I would definitely be more advanced, I'd have better muscle memory, and all around I would be better at this. But I didn't, and so I don't know how far along I could have been at this point if I had started correctly from the beginning. So you might not necessarily need it in order to learn lettering. But if you really want to get good at this, and if you want to advance faster, putting the time and effort into learning these proper basics at the beginning is going to serve you in the long run. You might not see the difference right now in your lettering, but these little changes will help you practice more effectively, build better muscle memory, avoid repetitive stress injuries. I mean, I really wish I knew how important it was when I first started. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it a little bit helpful. I'll catch you later.